Okay, you should be able to see my screen now. Is that right? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just go over a few things first before we look at these assignments. Okay, so as I was just saying, this marking period, there are 5 assignments. 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5. Basically all the satire assignments, as well as 6.5, which is the learning survey. Okay, everything is due on Friday, but as I was just saying to Mohammed, I have to give these grades in next Friday. Yes, next Friday, which is what, the 28th. So try and get everything in by this Friday, but basically you could have, if you needed it, until next Wednesday, which is the 26th. That would be really the latest date, because I have to grade stuff as well. Okay, so marking period 3 is the last marking period this school year. And then what happens is your grades for marking period 1, marking period 2, marking period 3 get averaged, and that becomes what's called your marking period 4 grade. Okay, so the average of marking period 1, 2, and 3 becomes your marking period 4 grade, just like we did last semester. So let's say you got grades of 70 in marking period 1, 75 in marking period 2, 80 in marking period 3. Can anyone do the math and tell me what the average would be? What's the average of 70, 75, and 80? Wow. No one?
Sorry, can you say that again? So
What is
the average of what?
What is the average of 70, 75, and 80?
70, 75, and 80 divided by 3, that is 75.
Okay. Right, so
Yeah.
that would average out at 75. Okay, so that's what would be your marking period 4 grade, your what's called your provisional marking period 4 grade. And then what happens in June is that you have the chance to improve your grade a little bit with, maybe you haven't done some assignments from earlier marking periods, and if you did those, you have a chance to improve your overall grade. It wouldn't go in marking period 3 because that period closes, but I can bump your grade up a little bit, and maybe I'd also give you some extra credit stuff to improve your grade. So let's say you did not so well in the second marking period, your grade wasn't so great for whatever reason, you'd have a chance the first 2 weeks of June to improve that grade. Okay. If you are behind, so there are 4 or 5 assignments this marking period. Let's say you haven't done 2 of them, then, let's say you hadn't done any of them or only done 1, I will be making phone calls home unless you want to send me a message and tell me what the problem is. Okay, we don't have much time. We don't have time for me to, play phone tag with you guys. So if you're really behind, you need to tell me what the situation is and how I can help. And otherwise, I'm going to be calling your parents. We're not going to have a meeting on Friday. Just so again, like last week, I can meet with you, some of you individually, to see what issues you're having or how I can help you improve your grade. Next week is going to be the mock regents. It's going to be smaller than the one we did in January. It's just going to be 1 assignment actually. which I'll post on Monday, but it will be split up into 3 sections, which are the 3 sections of the actual real Regents exam. So there's going to be some multiple choice questions. There's going to be some questions about an essay which you have to read, thinking about the argument which is made. And then the last section is there's a text you're going to read, and you're going to think about what the central idea of the text is and how that central idea is developed. So we'll talk more about that next Wednesday, but that's what the mock Regents will be. When you see the assignment on Monday, I actually give you kind of like a little guide about how to do it. Some of you may want to do it all in one go, which is fine. Some of you may just want to do a section, you know, a little bit each day, in which case I give you a suggestion about, you know, maybe you want to do this on Monday, maybe you want to do this on Tuesday, just so it's not like a whole big thing. But it's up to you how you do it, okay? But that will be due next Friday, and that will actually count towards your overall grade for the marking for the semester. Sorry. And then the last day of lessons is June 18th, which is what, 3 weeks? No, it's like 4 weeks ago, right? It's about a month away. So if you're in blended learning, the last day is going to be on the 15th, which I think is a Tuesday. But we will be having blended learning. We will be having remote learning all of that last week on the Wednesday and Friday. Friday will be the last day, June 18th. But we'll be doing more fun things in June. This basic situation is if you're completely up to date with all your work by the end of this week, you don't really have much to do in my subject. You can always improve your grade by going back and doing anything, you know, you didn't finish before. I can also give you some extra credit stuff if you want. Otherwise, you're going to be playing a lot of games probably in June. If you do have work outstanding or you want to improve your grades, then, you know, you can send me a message and ask me what you need to do or what you can do to improve your grade. Andres, I see your message. I'll send you a message privately. Any questions about any of that stuff that's on the screen? Okay, moving on. So there were 2 assignments which I posted on Monday. One is 6.4, that's the analyzing satire one. That's the last assignment we'll be doing on satire. And 6.5, which is the learning survey. Okay, they're both due on Friday. I'm going to talk about each of them individually. So let's start with 6.4. Okay, so for 6.4, you're going to analyze this text. It's called Wealthy Teen Nearly Experiences Consequence. Okay, so this is a satirical text. It's all made up. It's completely fictional, right? But it looks like a real news article. Okay, and there's a picture attached to the text of this guy. But again, this is a fictional person. Okay, but maybe we can get some idea from looking at this person, maybe something about what this text is about. I mean, when you look at this guy, what impression do you get?
School.
What's that? Say that.
He's wearing a suit, so it's like, you know, it looks like a uniform, as if he were going to school.
Yes. Do we think he's rich or poor?
Rich.
Rich, right? So, you know, when you guys go to school, in fact, in pretty much all public schools in New York City, you don't have to wear like a uniform. If you were in England, you would have to wear a uniform, like I did. But in some private schools, or actually most private schools in the city, you have to wear like some kind of outfit uniform, a little bit like what this guy's wearing, right? So maybe you can think about that as you're reading the article. article, right? So this is about a wealthy teen who nearly experiences a consequence. What's a consequence? How can we define consequence?
It's like something that happens when it's like something that you like is your price that you have to pay for when you do something bad.
Exactly, right? You do something and there's a result of what you did, right? So, for example, in this article, this guy crashes his car, right? He has a car, he crashes his car, and a consequence would be what would happen as a result of him doing this action, him crashing his car. And so the first thing you want to think about when you're reading this text is, well, what's going on with this title here? Wealthy teen nearly experiences consequence. So that's just something to think about. I'm going to read the whole article, and then maybe I'll give you some ideas or just things to think about as you're analyzing this text. With these satirical articles, it's a really good idea to read the thing out loud to get an idea of the tone of the article. So let me just read it. Unless anybody wants to read it. Does anybody want to read it? Any volunteers? Okay. So this happens in Somerset, New Jersey, which I think is a real place. Well, New Jersey is, but I think Somerset is. Okay. In what local authorities are calling a near tragedy, Charles Wentworth, a 17 years old Rutgers prep preparatory senior and member of the affluent Wentworth family, came perilously close to suffering a consequence resulting from his own wrongdoing Saturday. Wentworth, reportedly ignoring the protests of his classmates, got behind the wheel of his new BMW car after consuming half the contents of a bottle of Goldschlagers at a friend's party. While driving westbound on Route 27, a disoriented Wentworth drifted across 2 lanes of traffic and collided with a minivan carrying a family of 4, bringing the teen face to face with a potentially life-altering lesson. Wentworth escaped unscathed and unpunished, however, when his airbags deployed and a team of high-powered attorneys rushed to the scene and rescued him from the brink of personal responsibility. Amazingly, Wentworth did not experience a single repercussion for consuming alcohol underage or operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, and is furthermore completely unaware that he did anything wrong, local police chief Marvin Taylor said. So that's a quote from this police chief. According to police reports that have since been shredded and removed from Wentworth's permanent record, when briefly taken into custody, the privileged teen began swearing, vomiting, kicking at the windows of the squad car in which he was momentarily placed following the collision. Wentworth later said the only thing that got him through that dark time was thinking of his rich, well-connected loved ones. With them in mind, he repeatedly shouted, "Don't you know who I am?" and summoned the strength to refuse a sobriety test. Sobriety test is basically a test to see if you are sober, if you have not been drinking alcohol. So I just want to give you some things to think about as you're reading this article. First of all, this is fake, right? It's completely made up. It looks like a real news article, but it's actually a fake satirical news article. So it's making satire about something. So here are some tips for how to analyze this article. First things first, you could think about what does the title tell us, right? The title is kind of a summary of what the satire is doing here. And it says wealthy teen nearly experiences consequence. Now there's one word in this text, in this title, which is kind of very important to the whole satire of the article. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's one word, something to think about as you're reading and thinking about the satire. Next, read the definition. So you'll see at the bottom of the text, which is attached to the assignment, there are some words which maybe we don't know the meanings of, but they're actually kind of important in this article. So affluent, which is in this first paragraph, means wealthy or rich. Perilously means dangerously. Goldschlägers is this expensive alcohol. Unscathed means unharmed. And a repercussion means the same as a consequence. Now, there may be some other words here that you don't know, but fortunately, there's this thing called the internet, which you can look up any words you don't know the meanings of. Right? So I suggest you do that. Now, when you're reading this article, reading satire in general, you want to think about what is happening in the article. Right? Just a summary of what happens. So that's the first thing you want to kind of do. And then you want to think about, well, if this was real, right, if this was a real life article, if this actually happened, what would you expect to happen? Okay, that's what you want to think about. Because the satire lies in the difference between what happens in this article and what you would expect to happen. And then you want to think about, and this is really why I suggest reading this article out loud, what is the author's tone? Remember, the author's tone is how the author feels towards the material. And maybe in this article, you want to think about what is the author's attitude towards the person in the article, Charles Wentworth. All right, how does he?
Sarcastic and mean.
Yes, we could say, thank you, Nathan, sarcastic and mean, right? This is definitely using sarcasm. So this guy, Charles Wentworth, right, he's not a real character. He's a made-up person. And in satire, when we have these characters, they represent real people in the real world. So what you want to think about is, who does Charles Wentworth represent, or what does he represent, right? And then that should help you think about, what is the author trying to satirize here, or who is he trying to satirize? Okay, Charles Wentworth maybe represents a group of people. So that's something to think about. Pay attention to the language. I already talked about the title. Right? As I said, there's one word in this title which is really important towards the satire. Wealthy teen nearly experiences consequence. Okay, so the thing with satire is you really have to focus on specific words. Okay, there's one word in the title which is helping with the satire, and there's lots of other words in this article which are also contributing to the overall satirical effect. So this is something that you really need to pay attention to. Think about which satirical devices are being used. Right? Nathan already talked about sarcasm, which is definitely the case in this article. I think we could say there's at least two other satirical devices being used. Okay, think about which ones those might be. You know, is there irony here? If so, is it situational irony or is it verbal irony? Is there understatement? Is there hyperbole? Is there parody? And always, when you're thinking about the satirical device used, you've also got to say, well, how do you know that satirical device is being used? So let's use the example of sarcasm. If you think there's sarcasm in this article, you've got to say, well, why is that an example of sarcasm? We know that sarcasm is when someone says the opposite of what they mean, with the intention of kind of bringing someone down or being having a certain tone towards somebody. Well, where do we see that in the text? Okay, so you've got to use the language of the satirical device in your explanation. Be specific, right? use the text, refer to the text. Don't just say, well, this is a satire on such and such. Okay, be specific. Try and get as much detail in as possible. And lastly, as always, evidence, 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 right? Whenever you're analyzing anything, okay, you've got to find evidence from the text to support what you're saying. So this is a example of how to structure your response. And this is from a different article. It's actually an article blended learning students should recognize, because we did this on Monday or Tuesday this week. And this is kind of how to structure your paragraph, or maybe you might want to write 2 paragraphs. So really you want to start off the article and then the name of the article. Okay, and then what is the article doing, right? Is it criticizing something? Is it ridiculing or making fun of something? Is it exposing something, which means to uncover the truth about something? And then what is it doing? Is it a belief that it's satirizing? Is it a group of people? Is it just one person? Is it a system? And then say what that is, right? In this example, from this other text, it's criticizing, we could say, the belief that nothing can be done to prevent mass shootings. This article was all about mass shootings. And then you've got to say how the satirical device, what the satirical device is and how it's being used, right? So the author is using, and then you've got to say which satirical device. And then you've got to say, why is it an example of that satirical device? So here it's using verbal irony and sarcasm because although they state that Americans are helpless in the face of mass shootings, they really mean Americans are actually not willing to do anything to prevent them. Okay, that's an example of verbal irony, sarcasm. And then you've got to provide evidence from the text, as evidenced by the final lines, blah, blah, blah. You could also quote from the text. Okay, so this, your textual analysis, your satirical analysis does not have to be very long. It could just be as short as this, really 3 or 4 sentences, as much evidence as possible. If you talk about more than one satirical device, that's always better, okay? But that is really how I want you to structure this. You've got to say what is being satirized, how is it being satirized? Is it a criticism? Is it a ridicule? Is it exposing? What's being exposed? What's being satirized? The satirical device that's used. How do we know it's an example of that satirical device? And then evidence from the text. And that's really all you have to do for this assignment. Are there any questions on that before we move on to the next assignment? Okay, so that was an example for a different text. Remember, you're analyzing this text. Wealthy teen nearly experiences consequence. Okay, so let's look at assignment 6.5 just quickly before we go. This is the learning survey. Apparently there's about 60 questions on this. They're all multiple choice. The survey is designed basically for people in or kids in middle school who maybe want to come to the school and they want to learn more about what the school is like, your experiences at the school. You can do this assignment on your phone. It's very easy to do on the phone. It's gonna, when you look at the assignment, there's a link to a web page, and it will ask for your access code. And that code is just your student ID number, your OSIS number. So once you put the access code in, you can start the survey. It's anonymous, which means that no one knows what you write, your responses. It's all multiple choice. From people who've done it, they tell me it only takes 15, 20 minutes to do. But do answer truthfully. Don't just go, Strongly agree, strongly agree, strongly agree, right? Actually read the questions. And this is something you have to complete. So if in 2 weeks' time you haven't done this survey, you can rest assured I will be asking you why you haven't done the survey. So just do it. It takes not very long to do. Once you've done it, you don't have to send me proof or anything. You just have to make sure you finish the survey, you click submit, and then you just turn in the assignment, and that's it. All done. So that is, yes, that's it. Are there any questions on anything I've just talked about? No, everyone's good?
No questions.
Right. If you weren't here at the beginning, just to mention that we won't have a meeting on Friday. I will be talking with some of you individually just to help you if you need any help. If you do need any help, send me a message in private. If you need help with any of the assignments, we can go over them, do them together. I'd rather you did that and then you didn't do the work and you got a bad grade. Try and get all your work in by Friday. If necessary, I can give you a few days next week, but Wednesday next week is really the cutoff date because I have to grade everything by next Friday. And everyone have a good weekend. It's going to be hot. I think it's going to be 90 degrees on Sunday. Is that right? Yes, 90 degrees on Sunday. So take care, everyone. Stay safe. If you're blended learning, if you are blended learning, I will not be in school tomorrow. I will see you Monday, but I've left instructions about what to do. Any questions? All right, everyone have a... Yes, hi Simone. Was that a question or are you saying goodbye?
I was saying bye.
Oh, bye Simone, take care. Bye everyone, have a good rest of the week, good weekend, take care, stay safe, and send me a message if you need any help. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye,
Bye,
Mr.
have a
Wu.
nice week.
Bye guys, take care. Bye everybody.
Bye, Mr.